Welcome to the first meeting of this semester. Our first speaker is Nils Morawietz, who will speak about colored card games. Thank you for taking our invitation and yes, you can start. Thank you.
Thanks for having me and thanks for the introduction. I'm going to talk about the colored cut games. This is a paper which was accepted at FSC TCS 2020 and is joint work with Nils, Christian Komasiewicz, and Frank Sommer. And in this paper, we introduced a new family of defender-attacker games played on edge-colored graphs to model specific aspects of network security analysis. So what do edge-colored graphs have to do with network security analysis? Let's look at this graph, which may somehow describe the connection between Marburg and Prague. And some edges in this network may only be used or traversed with the internet by taking a walk, by using public transportation, or using a private helicopter. Well, unfortunately, my university told me a private helicopter was no option for me to give this talk right now. And also due to the Corona crisis, using public transportation was not an option for me. But luckily, there's still a connection left between Marburg and Prague, namely the internet. In this Zoom call, I was still able to give this talk right now. So why edge-colored graphs? As we have seen in the previous slide, here these purple edges representing public transportation failed all simultaneously, even though they are not necessarily connected. So this purple edge here has no connection to these purple edges here, but still they failed because they have the same vulnerability, a shared vulnerability. And this can be very easily modeled by these edge colors. So if we now want to measure the robustness of our network, or the robustness or the connectivity between two endpoints S and T, one can define so-called colored ST cards. And such a colored ST card is a color set such that after removing all edges colored in any of these colors, this connects S from T. So let's look at this graph here. And let's take a greedy approach. So the most frequent colors, for example, we may remove green and the red edges from the graph. So first of all, green, afterwards red. There we can see there's still a path remaining between S and T. Here this blue-gray path. So this was not a colored ST card yet. We have to choose a third color. Let's say gray. Yes, gray. I choose gray. But this is not the smallest colored ST card in this example. Does anyone see a smaller colored ST card? Question to the audience.
Blue and red?
This is correct. So let's first of all remove red. And now we can see that there's only this green, black, blue, green, and this blue-gray path remaining. All these paths over here are cut, and also these paths over down there. So with only two colors, we were also able to disconnect S from T. And the corresponding decision problem, oh no, wait, first of all. So finding a color ST card is not, or the smallest size color ST card is not that easy, or at least not with this greedy approach. And there's also a very close relations between these hitting sets, these colored ST cards and hitting sets. Namely, if we would enumerate all ST paths and list all the color sets of ST paths. So here this green, cyan, red, green, red, gray, black, purple, and so on. We enumerate all the color sets of these ST paths. Then a color set is a colored ST card, if and only if it is a heading set for this collection of color sets. And this close relation between colored ST cards and hitting sets is used later namely in the proof, for example, that colored as t-cut, the decision problem in which we ask if a given edge-colored graph has a hitting set of size, a colored as t-cut of size at most k, is NP-hard. Namely, this problem was introduced in 2002 by Ya et al. And shown to be NP-complete with this very simple reduction from the hitting set problem. So let's say we have here the universe of a hitting set. We have colors red, gray, pink, and cyan. And we have these three subsets, these hyperedges, red, gray, pink, gray, cyan, and cyan, red. And we can simply build a graph with S and T. And for this first collection, this first color class, we build a red, gray path. For the second one, the pink one, we build a purple, gray, cyan path. And for the last one, cyan, red, we build this path. And we can now easily see that this graph here has a colored as t-cut with k colors, even only if the corresponding hitting set instance here has a hitting set of size at most k. So these problems are closely related, and so we can also see that everything which is presumably hard for hitting set is also very hard for colored as t-cut, and also this is a very simple graph. So many structural graph parameters for many structural graph parameters, we can presumably not obtain positive results if we use them as a kernelization algorithm or FPT algorithm. So algorithms whose exponential growth only depends on the structural graph parameter. As I mentioned, colored as t-cut is shown to be NP-complete. And this problem can also be seen as the goal of an attacker who tries to disconnect two specific endpoints in a network by abusing several vulnerabilities. If we want to look from a different perspective, if we want to know, can we ensure that a path between two endpoints is easy to secure? We can look on these edge graphs on the labeled path problem, where we want to know if there's a path between S and T with only with at most k colors. So in this example here, we can secure a path between S and T by securing red color and a cyan color. So as I mentioned, this can be seen as a goal of a defender who tries to establish a safe connection between the endpoints. This problem was introduced 2 years earlier and also shown to be NP-complete. And both these problems, the labeled path and the colored as t-cut problem, were well analyzed in the last 20 years or 18 years, respectively. So in our work, we now introduce the colored cut games, which is a generalization of both these problems and also more problems. In the following way, that we have a defender and an attacker who play against each other. So the attacker tries to disconnect S&T and the defender tries to preserve a connection between these endpoints. Let's first show in an example how this actually works, how it is played before we go to the formal definition. Well, the formal definition is still just some keywords, but okay. Let's say we start with a defender. And the agents play in an alternating fashion and choose one color at a time. And they are not allowed to choose previously chosen colors. So we start with the defender. He is allowed to choose only one color. And since he wants to secure a path between S and T, he has to choose the red color in his first turn, as otherwise the attacker can simply choose red and disconnect S from T. So we say that the defender chooses red. And now it's the attacker's turn. The attacker tries to disconnect S from T. And since the defender already secured this edge here, the attacker has to choose blue, as otherwise the defender can simply win the game. So we say the attacker destroys the blue color, remove all these edges from the graph. And now it's again the defender's turn, and now we can easily see, well, by just choosing the green color, he can complete a colored a labeled path with two colors, namely red and green. So now to the more formal definition of the problem, or not this simple version. We introduced the family of defender-attacker games that generalize the color sticker and the label path problem in the following way. These two agents have budgets in each turn, so we play I turns, and in each of the turns, each player has a budget. So in the J's turn, the defender is allowed to choose DJ many colors. In the J's turn, the attacker is afterwards allowed to choose AJ many colors. And the agents are not allowed to choose previously chosen colors. And well, the goal of the attacker is to disconnect S from T. And we analyzed the complexity of these games. We showed that they are PSPACE-complete, even if the budget in each round is equal to 1, and even then in very restricted instances. And it's very simple to show, namely, there's a version of fitting set, on a competitive version of fitting set, where we have the same instance, just a universe and a collection of subsets. And we have two agents, player 1 and player 2, and they choose elements of this universe in an alternating fashion. And the second player wins if and only if he obtains a hitting set with the elements he chooses. So this is just the same. This is the input from this competitive fitting set instance, and we build the exact same graph as in the reduction for colored as t-cut. And now the second player here, who tries to obtain a hitting set on this instance, has a winning strategy if and only if the attacker for this colored cut game has a winning strategy on this graph. So here again, we can abuse this close relation between colored as t-cut and hitting sets to show the PSPACE completeness. Or PSPACE hardness, the completeness is, well, pretty trivial. But what if the number of alternations is fixed? So we only have, for example, 3 turns. It's first defender, attacker, defender, attacker, defender, attacker. Then we were able to show that for a constant value of I, all color cut games are, well, the color cut games where the number of alternations is fixed. These problems are complete for the 2ith level of the polynomial time hierarchy, even on graphs with a constant maximum degree. So this looks pretty bad at first, but don't worry, I have positive results. Namely, we were able to show polynomial kernelization algorithms for all colored cut games. And first of all, I should explain what is a kernelization algorithm or a polynomial kernelization algorithm. This is an algorithm running in polynomial time, and that transforms an instance of colored cut games and a parameter p into another instance I prime of colored cut games and a parameter p prime, such that I and I prime are equivalent instances. So the attacker has a winning strategy in I if and only if he has a winning strategy in I prime. And the size of I prime is never larger than f of p for some function f. And then we call f of p the kernel size. And if this function f is a polynomial function, then we call this whole algorithm a polynomial kernelization algorithm. And such a polynomial kernelization algorithm, or kernelization algorithms in general, highly depend on the parameter we're looking at. And we looked at so-called longest path modulators. So next definition, what is a longest path modulator? We say for a constant number d, d longest path modulator is a subset of the vertices, such that in the remaining graph, after removing this longest path modulator gamma, there's no path of length d plus 1. So here in this example, d is equal to 3, and we can easily see that this set over here is a 3 longest path modulator by just removing gamma from the graph. And now we can see there's no path of length 4 in the remaining graph. So there are only paths of length 3. But note that this does not necessarily bound the size of this whole instance or the size of the components in v minus gamma, since this center vertex may have arbitrarily many other neighbors. So it's just a star with many, I don't know, neighbors. Center vertex with many neighbors. And we are not looking at longest path modulators itself, but kappa d, which is the d longest path deletion number, so the size of the smallest d longest path modulator. And this might look obscure at first, this parameter, but actually if d is equal to 1, then kappa d is equal to the vertex cover number, which is a very famous parameter used in many algorithms for many problems. So this is a generalization of this very famous parameter, the vertex cover number, and is for increasing values of d, presumably smaller. So what do we obtain for these colored cut games? We are able to show that all these colored cut games admit a kernel of size kappa d squared times k to the d plus 1. So, well, there's now this k. What does k mean? K is the sum over all attacker budgets. So the total number of colors the attacker is able to choose over all rounds. Why do we need this k? It is, for example, in the previous over there. So, based on the fact that hitting set is NP hard for even if each hyper edge has size 2. So vertex cover is NP hard. This reduction shows us directly that even by removing only 2 vertices, so let's say all elements in F have a size 2, then the resulting graph in this reduction would just be a biclick of this form. Well, there might be there are edge colors, of course, but even if the vertex cover number of the corresponding graph, namely in this case these 2 vertices, S and T, if we have only 2 vertices to remove to obtain a vertex cover, or we have a vertex cover of size 2, this problem is already NP hard. So this it would not be possible to obtain a kernel only for the parameter kappa d. So we need a different parameter or an additional parameter, in this case k, the total attacker budget. And how does this quantization algorithm works? First of all, of course, the set gamma is bounded by kappa d. So we are already fine with this set. We only have to bound the number of vertices in v minus gamma. And to this end, we first of all compute all direct paths between distinct vertices in gamma. We call this set, we compute these sets A, B. This is a collection of color sets of A, B path in of direct A, B path. And what do I mean with direct path? I'm talking about paths that do not contain a third vertex of gamma. So for example, here, if we go from S over this purple edge and over this gray edge to V2, then this would be a direct SV2 path. But for example, this red, gray, green, gray path over here would not be a direct SV2 path since we traverse the vertex V1. So how do we compute these sets, this collection of color sets?
Pardon?
Yes.
But we can use edges in V minus gamma, right? For this.
Yes. Yeah, okay. So we are also allowed to choose this blue, green, gray, gray path over here. So this would also be a direct SV2 path, as long it doesn't if it doesn't contain a third vertex in gamma, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and how do we compute these collections? We just remove all remaining vertices of gamma that are not necessarily that are not A and B. So if we want to compute A S V1, we just remove S V2 and T from the graph. And now we can see this. There's a purple-green path, a red-gray path, and a blue-green-gray-green path. So we have this collection here has 3 color sets, and each of these color sets is small, since we had a longest path modulator. So the longest path modulator. So in V minus gamma, the longest path is at most D. So we have D minus 1 edges plus 2 additional edges. So D plus 1 edges at most, and so D plus 1. So each color set in each of these collection has at most size at most D plus 1. And so we can also compute these sets efficiently, since these are constant. Okay. Yeah, now we do this for all pairs of distinct vertices in gamma. So all gamma choose too many combination of vertices. And at the end, we have all these collections, and they describe the connectivity between these pairs of vertices in gamma, the direct connections. And what we want to do now is we have these collections, and the colored AB cuts in the graph only containing AB and V minus gamma are exactly the hitting sets for these collections. This is again this close relation between hitting sets and colored ST, but more or less colored AB cuts in this case. And what we want to do is we want to somehow find a smaller collection which also represents this larger collection without losing any information. And we want this new collection to be bounded. So again, this is what I already mentioned. We want to find a smaller collection, A prime, AB, such that both these collections share the same hitting sets of size at most K. Since the attacker is only allowed to choose K colors in the whole game, we do not have to care about larger colored ST cards, since the attacker is not allowed to choose them anyway. So we only have to care about colored ST cards of size at most K, and if both share the same colored ST cards, or in this case the same hitting sets, sorry, then we do not lose any information for the winning strategy of the attacker. And recall that each color set in each of these collections has size at most D plus 1. So only constant sized color sets. We can use the famous sunflower lemma to obtain such a collection A prime AB of size at most O of K to the D plus 1. So we are able to bound all these collections over here. We've computed them in polynomial-time. And now we simply remove V minus gamma from the graph. And for each of these collections over here, we now add new paths to the graph. So for the collection A prime SV1, we now add for each color set in this collection a new SV1 path to the graph with exactly this color set. So we do this for all gamma choose too many combinations of vertices. And so in here, each path has length at most D. So this again is a D longest path modulator. We are fine with this connection. And we were able to show in our paper that these instances are now equivalent. And the only thing remaining is to show the size of this new instance. And the size of this new instance is, of course, gamma choose too many of these collections over here. Each collection has at most K to the D plus 1 many color sets, and each color set has size at most D plus 1. So in total, we have an instance of size gamma squared times K to the D plus 1, which is the stated kernel bound I mentioned earlier. So there might be one question. namely how do we obtain such a d longest path modulator gamma. We just approximate it with a d+1 approximation. So there's also another d+1 hidden in here. So just care about it, don't care about it. It's a constant and it's fine. Actually, this kernel bound is somewhat tight for the d hitting set. So the hitting set problem where each subset of the universe has size, each hyperedge has size d, exactly d. There's presumably no bit compression of k to the d+1 minus epsilon. And since these colored cut games here are already hard if gamma has size 2, we also obtain the same size kernel as the lower bound states for the d hitting set problem for the basic games. Yeah, this was mainly the main result of the paper. So we introduced these colored cut games, the defender attacker games, to analyze specific aspects of network security analysis and analyze their complexity. We were able to show polynomial kernelization algorithms for all colored cut games, including colored ST cut and the labeled paths, which are the most basic colored cut games, which is pretty nice since so far only few polynomial kernelization algorithms were known for these problems. I'm actually not sure if there was only if there was a single kernelization algorithm for labeled paths. I'm not completely sure. We obtained this by combining parameters describing the structure of the graph and the attacker budget. And it would be interesting for the future to know if it is possible to combine the defender budget with other structural graph parameters to obtain also positive results, hopefully polynomial kernelization algorithms. And also it would be interesting to find out if there are other p-space hard problems for which one can obtain useful polynomial kernelization algorithms. That's all for now. Hope you enjoyed, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, if not, I will give my question, and then maybe in between someone can think about his question. So my question is that about this the longest path modulator. The question is whether this name comes from literature or is it your name?
I think it is called in the literature. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that one of our reviewers stated previously this result was different in our first draft of the paper. We submitted a kernelization algorithm for a component order connectivity. So the vertex deletion distance to a such that each component in v minus gamma has constant size. And then a reviewer asked, well, can't you expand this result to longest path modulators? I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure this is somewhere stated in literature, but I don't know if it's the most famous name.
Oh, the reason I'm asking is that we actually have an algorithm to find this with one of my students, or like for a concrete number, like 5. This would be, I think, 5 LP or modulator, but we studied it under the name 5-part vertex cover. So yeah, so I think I'm not sure about like this ±1 in there, but anyway, so we studied that under the name of D-part vertex cover, And I was wondering whether like we are omitting half of the literature because of having wrong name or something like that.
I might look at the paper later what we cite for that, and maybe we cite you. I don't know.
No, we didn't use this longest start modulator, so it would be strange if you side with us and then use different name for the program. But yeah, I would be happy to learn like what is the half of the literature I'm not aware of. Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking it up and sending it to you later.
Yeah. Any further questions?
Okay, hello. I would like to have a question. So first of all, thank you very much for a nice talk. And this basic version without the budget and so on, this is some sort of nice positional combinatorial game. So I wonder, are there some let's say purely combinatorial results, like stating that given a graph with some special structure, or maybe with the special color structure, then there always exists a winning strategy for the connector, or on the other hand for the disconnector? Is something like this known? I mean, in the purely combinatorial.
So the version where we have a budget one in each turn?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, this is not a good example, but in general, this problem is PSPACE-complete for this one budget at a time, even if the graph, mainly from this type of reduction, if this graph is planar, has a vertex deletion distance to a constant longest path modulator. If it is bipartite, you might also add a constant maximum degree to it. So it is pretty hard even on very restricted instances.
I see. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Even on click graphs, it's PSPACE-complete.
And is there some other literature on this unit budget case, or is this the first paper on this topic?
So this colored version is new. We introduced it in our paper. If we want to look at an uncolored graph, then there is a paper of this problem of removing one edge or securing it one at a time. Is a known game by Tarjan, I guess. No, not Tarjan. Shannon. It's a Shannon switching game.
Yeah, I think connectivity game, maybe something like that.
And, or maybe this is then polynomial-time solvable. So if we don't have colors, it's polynomial-time solvable, and if we add colors, then it becomes PSPACE-complete even on very, very restricted instances.
I see. And if the colors are in some sense restricted, or maybe have some special structure, not like any general coloring, but I don't know, maybe the color classes or connected components of each color are very small or something like that. I don't know. I'm just
yeah, that is a very good question. For example, here the basic colored cut game, colored ST cut, is polynomial-time solvable if all colors are connected, or each color class is a connected component itself. We haven't analyzed it for the general version, but I think one can obtain positive results or better results than the general approach. I think if we restrict the color classes far enough, this might be solvable. Oh, wait. No, actually, I think the general version where choosing only one color at a time might still remain PSPACE-complete. Because there's a different Shannon switching game on the vertices where the players choose a vertex at a time and remove it or save it, remains PSPACE-complete, if I'm not wrong. And there is a reduction from this problem to the unit version of the colored cut games. So where each color is just connected components. So this might not help us.
Mhm.
But maybe in combination with the constant maximum degree, then this might be polynomial-time solvable.
Okay, so thank you.
Okay, any further questions? If not, then let's thank again. That's it for today, I guess.
Thanks for having me. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you are playing the
Yes.
colored cut games from now on.
Yes.
Oh, actually, there's an implementation from one of our students. Well, no, there were 3 of our students who implemented as a Android application, but unfortunately, I'm working on a new computer, so I was not able to install Android Studio here. Maybe there's a recording of FSD-TCS where you can see the game if you're interested, and maybe I can send you the application.
Great. Thanks. Bonus.